Hello. Great
Hi
name on
there, how
you.
you doing?
I'm doing well. All right. Let me just go ahead and actually give me one moment. I've got my
Sure.
old work hoodie on, but I'm not here for my employer. I'm here for other reasons altogether. Hala. So there's the real me.
Nice t-shirt.
Thank you. I took note of it as a lovely little poster homage you made in the film. So
Yes, in Megan's room, which is my favorite set. I think the production designer, like, there's so much detail in that set. Like, have a good look at that shot because there's Joan Jett and there's severed hands and there's Nixon masks. He really like. It's funny because we only shot in that set for like I don't know, like 10 minutes, and I'm like,
really, yeah, it's not a lot of time in there, but it's a beautifully decorated set.
it's so nice. It's a shame because in the original script there was an extra scene where the two main characters were watching Argento's Tenebrae, and there's one of my favorite lines in the movie where Laurie said, "What's this? The new John Hughes?" Watching one of the Tenebrae kill scenes, and it was all going to be set in there. And when I saw this, the what the production designer had done, I was like, I can't believe we're like getting so little juice out of this amazing set.
Well, you'll have to like tell them just, hey, can we just preserve it and I'll just pay rent to live there or something like that.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Well, Matt, I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for spending some time with me today to talk about Fear Street Prom Queen. I'm going to do, quick intro to you for those that are watching this. Um, Fear Street Prom Queen comes out on Netflix this week, the 23rd of May.
Mhm.
You are the co-writer and the director behind the film. And I just want to give you kind of a mini standing ovation because
Oh,
I was not the biggest fan of the original Fear Street trilogy. I thought they were fine films, but I was like they didn't resonate as much for me as I think they did for others. This felt like was working inside of my brain and made the slasher movie that is an amalgamation of all the things I loved about slashers, minus the ironic slasher era of the '90s. So,
mhm.
outstanding work on Fear Street Prom Queen, Matt.
Oh, thanks. That's very. I mean, obviously, I'm a little nervous because we're
Sure.
like 5 days away from going to the world, but that's very exciting to hear,
Oh well, I'm as
particularly from somebody in a zombie t-shirt.
I know I was like, I'm not going to say that I'm a tough critic or anything, but I am a little bit more curmudgeon-y than some of my peers at Macabre Daily. So I was just lapping up all of the slasher goodness in this. And I know I don't have you all day, Matt, because if I did, we'd probably nerd out on horror stuff. But
Mhm.
um,
We'll have to
the first,
nerd out at hyper speed.
I know, we'll keep it as fast-paced but as understandable as possible. The first one is, what is your background with the young adult Fear Street novels?
Uh, Honestly, like I think R.L. Stein is, and everyone over in the UK knows Goosebumps, but I think the Fear Street novels are much bigger in the States. So I actually hadn't really heard of them, and then I got this sort of approach from the producers through my agent, and it listed it had information about the Fear Street novels and listed some of the potential novels they thought were good for adapting. But that was my introduction to it. Um, but the one thing I knew for sure is with the premise of Prom Queen, he knocked it out the fucking park.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I was curious about is because, I grew up on the Goosebumps and then Fear Street and then the Christopher Pike novels, which were kind of an offshoot of Fear Street.
Hmm.
But I'd be lying if I said I could remember the plots of all of them because it's been a lot of time and a lot of recreational activities since then. But was this one that was adapted directly from one of R.L. Stein's books, or was this more of kind of an amalgamation of different tropes and ideas he'd put forward that you all kind of put into one singular vision?
No, this was basically the premise of the Prom Queen novel. Is somebody prom's approaching in Shadyside, somebody starts killing the prom queens, and it kind of intersected directly with. Um, I'm a big fan of Happy Birthday to Me. I think it's 1983. It's completely bonkers, like slasher. And that film is somebody's killing the top 10 class snobs. It's funny because in the actual film, that premise in Happy Birthday to Me kind of gets a little bit lost in the wash. I mean, the film's loads of fun and completely batshit, but like the premise kind of gets lost. But I was kind of obsessed with this idea of somebody taking out the top 10 class snobs. And so obviously with the prom queen candidates being the it girls, I was like, oh, this is kind of like, this is a bit like Happy Birthday to Me and a bit like Prom Night. And we can just go in with that DNA and just kind of have fun with it. But R.L. Stein's really kind of open to, obviously you can use stuff from the novels or you can go in different directions. And he's really open to that. So it just allowed us the freedom to kind of take a really killer premise and kind of push out in some slightly different directions. I mean, the film is much gorier than the books.
Yes.
Um,
And thank you for that, because I think one of the things that people, I guess, as a hardened horror fan, one of the things we always worry about is when we're adapting things that are supposed to appeal to a broad audience, it sometimes means making compromises in some of the brutality. Um, and so I'm always wondering, this has some beautifully fantastic gore and some really killer fun, like really fun kill scenes in it. Was there anything that you were asked to tone down at all that didn't make it in the final
no,
cut?
I was actually asked to tone it up. So basically,
Ah,
like, because as far as possible, we're doing practical effects, but we had a really talented VFX team as well. It was the Scanline who did the Joker movies. So they were incredible. And actually, the VFX budget got upped during post production so they could essentially elaborate on some of the kills and make them gorier. I was like, oh my god, are they going to pull it back the other way? But I think there has been a thing like since in the last kind of 12 months where people are a little bit fed up with the kind of PG-13 horror. I mean, like I thought the movie Megan was great, and then I heard that they basically to get a PG-13 they chopped out loads of gore, and I'm like, oh my god, if Megan had gore as well, that'd be a really great fucking movie, you know?
yeah.
And it's just I don't know, like I for whatever reason, like I just I want gore. Do you know what I mean? And like if you've got a great movie and gore, then you're in for a good time, you know.
Oh, for sure. I mean, as horror fans, I think we're accustomed to seeing the most brutal possible death scenes that we can. And one thing that I loved watching in Fear Street Prom Queen was the very clever Easter eggs, throwbacks. Obviously, the zombie shirt I'm wearing in homage to the zombie poster you have in there. But you
Mm,
also have a scene where they're in the theater watching one of my favorite movies, which is Phantasm 2.
yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what are the non-negotiables that you had in mind when you were thinking about using homage this way without going overboard, but also, showing everyone that you've got your horror bona fides?
Well, I guess it's just like for me, there was actually like I said at the beginning, there was also like going to be a scene where they were watching Tenebrae as well, and the scene where the woman gets her arm chopped off and the blood gets like all pumped all over the wall, and it was just like I kind of like the idea of like having Megan as a horror fan. It was almost like sort of making the movie like my happy place. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like everyone in the movie is into horror, but they're not kind of. I guess that's as meta as it gets because I don't really like winking at the audience, and
right.
everyone's living an existence in the movie, even though it's in a heightened world. But I like the idea that like the horror movies were inside the movie and outside the movie, and like it just creates this kind of lovely womb of horror.
I mean, now you've given
uh,
the title for your next project right there.
womb of horror. But yeah, just having like that, like it makes me very happy just seeing Megan in her room with all her like paraphernalia and her Fangoria magazine, and it's just a kind of there's just something satisfying and reassuring about it all.
I'd agree. I mean, listen, I had my mom I had my mom come visit me a few years ago. She walked into this room and she said, "Wow, it looks like your room when you were a kid." I'm like, "Well, I don't know how to take that. I think it's a compliment. I think, but we'll never know." But my last question for you, Matt, is, you know, there's been so much great marketing for this film, especially taking some kind of legacy
They've done
slasher
amazing,
posters
yeah, amazing job.
and imposing the Fear Street kind of aesthetic onto these, legacy concept designs. But if you were asked to program a double feature with Fear Street Prom Queen, what movie do you think would make
Oh,
a great kind of
shit.
before or after? Doesn't matter where it sits.
Oh, no. That's hard. There's
It's
so
always the
many.
hardest question for everybody. I always thought it was gonna be a fun one, but
I mean, my go-to, like when I was doing my interviews for Caliber, my first movie, I just wouldn't shut up about Pieces from 1982. I mean, the thing is, Pieces is still a very good choice. I think I've done Pieces so many times now that I've out pieces myself. If that's like I've done
ran out of
Pieces.
pieces.
I've run out of pieces because I've been doing it for 10 years. Um, but that's I guess any of those, I think like Sleepaway Camp or Happy Birthday to Me would be, a kind of some kind of mental slasher movie. I sort of gravitate towards the slightly unhinged ones. So I think it would be Pieces or Sleepaway Camp or Happy Birthday to Me. Probably, if you put a gun to my head, probably Pieces. Because
Well,
I know how people react when you show Pieces. They go completely insane.
yeah, it's either gonna warm your crowd up or it's gonna leave them something to be talking about at the end. So it's you can never place it poorly. But Matt, I just want to say again, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about Fear Street Prom Queen and to remind everyone watching this that you can catch the film on Netflix on Friday, May 23rd, 2025. Please go and watch it. Give it your support. I guarantee you're gonna love it. I loved it, and I'm, as I said earlier, a bit of a curmudgeon. So take it from me. But Matt, looking forward to the next film you're working on and hope you get all of the praise for this one coming out in a few days.
Thanks, Matt. It's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.